And not to say you have to jump ship, but really think about like, where am I at in my career right now? What am I learning?
For too long, entrepreneurs and business owners have been told they have to choose between profit and purpose. If you're tired of burning out, done chasing someone else's version of success, and ready to grow with more purpose, prosperity, and peace of mind, you're in the right place. Because every business has the potential to do good and do well. I'm Chase Friedman, and this is In Pursuit of Purpose, where strategy meets soul. Welcome back. Today, I am joined by the lovely Genevieve Pawlak, a strategist, storyteller, and overall secret weapon for small businesses and corporate leaders looking to elevate their operations. She's the founder of Prime Alchemy. She blends play and game-based learning with critical thinking to help small business owners and corporate clients tackle complex challenges, spark creativity, build sustainable success with a touch of play, which I think is a unique differentiator in our space. And of course, a great deal of purpose. Two things that I think we need way more of in the coaching consulting space. So Marie's story is about resilience, reinvention, and the power of making the right shift at the right time. So if you've ever asked yourself whether it's time to reimagine your business, your career, you definitely want to check this episode out. Marie, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me, Chase. I'm so excited about this show.
So you and I, we've been jamming together for a while. We met a little while back, and I've always been inspired by your journey, the work you're doing. But of course, as we know, and what this show is very much about, it didn't start there, right? This is where you are today, and I'm sure it's still a work in progress. So I want to kind of roll things back and understand where you started, your kind of origin story in your career, and showcase how you made quite a significant pivot into the work you're doing now, and how you're leading with purpose in terms of coaching and guiding business owners, CEOs, leadership. So, I think your journey reminds me that, sometimes the only way forward is through transformation, right? We have to go through this inflection point. Walk me back to where you started in your career. And at that point, what did success look like or mean to you?
I started my career in higher ed. And then for me, it was in the student services section of higher ed. And at that point, my career really looks like every promotion. I think like every person, it was, oh, I got promoted to the next level, so I'm successful. I started out as a counselor and then moved my way up to VP of student services, running multi-school departments. And that felt like success. But there was it also didn't feel like success, if that makes sense. It was sort of like I was part of the grind, and that felt like, oh, this is great. But I knew there was something more that I wanted to do. And so I had this sort of epiphany of, I'm just going to transition completely out of the industry that I started my career in and go into manufacturing. And there was a bit of hubris involved in that, where I applied for a job. The interview was the first time I'd ever been in a plant. And the next thing I know, I'm having this conversation with the CEO that owns a global manufacturing company. And he's taking a chance on me because I'm able to at least explain how my operations background in higher ed could translate in the ops of a manufacturing company. And I'm admitting the things I don't know. So he just took a chance on me, and it was a great chance that he took. It was 3 years of learning manufacturing and learning some things. And through that, I realized what I wanted to do when I grew up, so to speak, was that experience.
Yeah, I mean, I want to go back to that pivot, because it sounds like you were getting into a completely new field, very little experience, education. I've been through a similar pivot of life, jumping into a career and industry I knew nothing about. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs do the same thing, right? What I'm always fascinated by is, look, there's some of us out there that take that leap of faith, and it's maybe not for everyone or due to life circumstances, but I notice a lot of people that stay stuck, that maybe see and read the signs and yet never give themselves that chance to jump, to leap, to try something new. So what was it that you were feeling then that was burning inside of you to say, I need to make an adjustment and I'm ready to do something completely new, be vulnerable, be open, but maybe it's worth the shot.
Yeah, there was this part of me that knew that I didn't want to retire, so to speak, in higher education. I had a little bit of burnout, if I'm being honest, in terms of the daily grind of, student complaints and faculty complaints and administrator complaints. And
you can be honest about burnout, by the way. This is like the topic du jour on this show. So bring it. Don't pull punches.
Yeah. I mean, it was just, you get to a certain level and that's your job. Your job is to manage complaints, but you do get burned out from that. Yeah. And I knew that there was something more I wanted to do. But at the same time, I felt this timidity about, I don't have the right skill sets to go out on my own. I've spent my entire career, except for like 4 years outside of when I jumped outside of higher ed and I worked for a global company overseas for 4 years. But other than that moment, I'd spent my entire career in education. And I just thought, no one's gonna listen to me if I don't have some background in the real, corporate work, is what I kept saying to myself. And so I just thought, well, what's the worst that can happen? I have a job. I'm applying for another job. Take the leap, right? And that's basically what I did. And then I was honest. I think the other thing that maybe because I felt like I had nothing to lose in that moment was that I was completely honest. Instead of pretending that I know what goes on in manufacturing, or I know about machining, or I knew nothing. And so I was honest. I said, I know nothing about your industry, but I'm willing to learn, but I know about operations and I know about processes and I know about process improvement. And being able to speak to that, I think that's what got them excited, was that I was open to learning. I was honest about what I didn't know, and I was confident with what I did know. And I did a lot of work of trying to figure out how to transfer my skills, being really honest and looking at my skills and getting help from outside people of saying, hey, look at my resume. How does this translate into your world? How does this translate into your world? So having people look at it honestly and say, oh, well, this connects this way and this connects this way.
I think that's so key, right? We oftentimes have our own blind spots around what we are or aren't qualified for when starting a new venture, a new project, a new campaign. And this was pointed out to me recently. I think we're more equipped with skills that are transferable, right? Regardless if it's a completely new industry. You might not know some of the nomenclature or the technicalities of it, but management, operations, working with people, problem solving, a lot of these things can be transferable. And I think the fact that you were open and vulnerable to be able to say, here's what I know, here's what I don't.
Yeah.
A lot of times in business, we kind of, I think, self-impose this expectation around having to know and be all things. Yeah. Right. So that sounds like it served you well, but it often takes someone outside of us, like a coach, a mentor, a friend, a former colleague, to say, wait, no, Marie, like you actually have a lot of these skills that you're going to need in this new gig.
Yeah. And being open to that feedback, I think, is the other component to that, is that we get so into our bubble of, here's what I can do, here's what I can't do, and I'm just like here, as opposed to saying to someone else, hey, can you look at what I've done and honestly assess and tell me where my gaps are and what I need to do. And that's why I think coaches are so valuable, because they're able to do that. They're able to give you that honest feedback. And also mentors and people that have known you for years, or people that you've only known for a little bit of time, can honestly reflect to you like, hey, this is what I see based on my experience of you. And that's what gave me the courage to then say, I'm going to go for this job that on the face of it doesn't even look like I would be qualified for. It turned out I was qualified for.
Yeah, you surprise yourself, right?
Yeah.
Once you get over that initial imposter syndrome
Yeah.
that we all struggle with.
Yeah.
So you've shifted into a new career. It sounds like you had good experience, and I'm sure
Mhm.
you kind of learned quickly. And yet, and I'm fast forwarding things, you reached a point there where it was time for you to jump into your own endeavor, right?
Yeah.
Um, talk to me about, and this is when you shifted into building Prime Alchemy. Is that right?
Yeah. So going back to like the messiness of life, when I first started, that wasn't our name. We started with a name called Planning 101 Group, which people were like, what the heck is that? And how does that connect to what you do?
I like the new name.
Yeah, thank you. It took some pain and time and clients telling us, wow, we almost didn't hire you because we thought you were like a finance group, or we thought you were wedding planners, or anything with planning. So that was one. That was the one thing that changed immediately. Well, not immediately. It took a few years to own that change. But what I noticed when I was working in manufacturing, I noticed there was a lot of skills that I kind of assumed people had as they moved up in their career, that I was noticing with my colleagues and with other, plants and departments they were struggling with. And I kept saying to myself, I could do this better. If I were able to be an outside person, people would listen to me more. Because a lot of times it's you're inside the organization and you're saying these things, but you're just another cog in the wheel, even though you're
Sure.
part of the C-suite, which is the irony of all ironies. But, there's still like there was this thing that was gnawing at me. So because I'm a little bit risk averse, if I'm being honest, I got my first client while I was still working because
That's
I
smart.
wasn't sure if I could really do it. And so my very first client, I'll never forget, was actually a school system, and I helped them revamp their ops, and they were excited about every suggestion that I gave them, every tool I gave them to really clean up their processes. And from there I was like, "Oh, I could do this." And so I started to plan out how I was going to build my own business. But I was doing it while I was working.
I mean, look, I think it's a pretty safe bet if you're able to do that, balance the day job, and
Mhm.
yet continue to nurture and develop, whatever that side hustle is, coaching, consulting, and do the work.
Yeah.
It's a great kind of proving ground. You can almost kind of beta test
Yeah.
your model, whether clients are paying you or not. It sounds like they were paying you, which is great.
Yeah.
To refine that approach. So I'm curious because kind of the theme for this episode, I really feel like is the shift that either saved my business or built my business. So what was it, that shift, that mindset? What changed in you to go from I'm in the C-suite, I have a comfortable job, a steady paycheck, to I'm going to dip my toe into something else and I see an opportunity to help others in a different way? Kind of that first foray into your
I
own
would love to
entrepreneurship.
say it was something lofty and just this amazing like epiphany. I got laid off.
There you go.
I mean, I would love to say it was this epiphany. So what happened is my position was eliminated.
That's a
And
great way to make that leap.
yeah. And funny enough, I was taking like a vacation days or holidays to work on the side hustle, weekends kind of thing, because I had a Monday through Friday, so weekends I was working my side hustle. And then when I got laid off and the layoff, I got a really nice severance, and the company was so sad, blah, 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 blah. I took my severance and started my business. I went, okay, there it is. So got laid off. I think it was like I don't know, like a Thursday or a Friday or something like that. And then Monday, got all my official paperwork done to be a real business.
Well, I mean, the great thing about it, and look, sorry you got laid off, but I think hopefully you would agree, was this probably one of the best sort of interventions you've had in
Yeah. Yeah.
career and life. I mean, what's great about what you shared with us is that you were already building sort of
Hmm.
in beta mode for this jump, right?
Yes.
Now, some people are out there and you have a steady job and okay, so what's the motivation, right? Is it I just have to take a leap of faith, or it's a forced exit, right? I
Hmm.
get laid off, and sometimes there's no cushion, there's no windfall, there's
Hmm.
no preparation for what's next. I think it's a great sort of learning lesson for anyone that's in a job that has aspirations or is considering something beyond starting their own business. Even if you're planting the seeds, even if you're starting to feel that out, um, and you're more methodical, right? Risk
Hmm.
averse, which I am as well. But you're building small little wins and confidence along the way, so that
Yeah.
either A, when you are ready to jump on your own terms, you've got something to jump to, or worst case, if it's imposed, you're not just kind of floundering thinking about what's next.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we all need to do sort of a career assessment, I would say, probably every quarter. Where am I at?
Oh
What am
wow,
I learning? You know, and
every
not to
quarter.
say you have to jump ship, but really think about like, where am I at in my career right now? What am I learning? How am I growing in my position? And if I can't answer those questions in a positive way for myself, I need to start thinking about how do I change that? Does that mean that I need to go to my boss and see if there's an opportunity for me to grow and learn in a different way? Does that mean I need to go back to school? Or does that mean I need to reevaluate, is this the right company for me? And I think we all need to do that. We need to kind of think of our careers the same way we have those annual reviews. Let's make it a personal quarterly review. And that's what I recommend to people when they ask me about career advice. I say quarterly. Sit down and think about where you're at, where you want to go, and what's the next thing you want to learn.
I didn't think you were going to say quarterly. That actually gives me a little bit of like anxiety. I'm like, okay, wow. But maybe it's something I guess subconsciously I and a lot of us do on a daily basis. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of times where in the back of our minds we're thinking and contemplating, is this the right path? Is it worth it? But I know in my instance, it took years after building an agency to finally stop and look back in the rearview mirror and be like, wow, how did I deviate so far from course? And if I would have had that knowledge, where were you then, Marie?
Sorry.
To have that quarterly check-in, I think it's important, not just for yourself, but also for your team, right?
Yeah.
Just vision, mission, forecasting. Where are we at? Are we aligned? I think that's a tough conversation to have, and even more difficult. And this is something I challenge my clients with, and I think you do a little bit of the same. Is go a step further and ask yourself, what is it that I'm meant to be doing?
Yeah.
Right? What do I believe in?
Yeah.
Why am I doing the work that I'm doing? And if it's not aligned, doesn't feel in flow, then what is my purpose? And how do I go adjust my current situation or find something new that honors that? I mean, that's a little bit more soul searching, but if you can answer those two things early and often before a layoff, a business failure, you're more equipped for that next step
Yeah.
versus being
Versus,
sent into the abyss
yeah, and being
and then having to
panicked.
pick up the pieces and figure it out.
Yeah. That is a key point. And I think that reflection should be included in that quarterly analysis for yourself, your business, your team. It should be part of that where everyone's really reflecting because of the fact that we are moving so fast. Just think of just the rate of change right now when it just comes to something as simple as technology. Everything is moving so quickly. And we don't take a moment to breathe and go, wait a minute, am I ready for the next wave of change?
Mm-hmm.
Is my business ready for the next wave of change? Is my team ready for it? And if we're honest, we're not. And we need to get ready. And the only way you're going to get ready is by, I love the questions that you had, Chase. Those are so brilliant and profound because it really does speak to, I have to be honest with myself. What am I lacking? What's going on with me? What's that voice inside of me that I keep suppressing because I'll do it tomorrow, really saying to me? And more importantly, how am I learning? How am I growing?
Mm-hmm.
Am I picking up new skills? My team picking up new skills? My business Is it doing something new and innovative that gets people excited? Those are the type of questions we have to ask, and we have to ask quarterly.
So tell me the type of work you're doing in transformation with leaders, business owners, executives, the work that you're doing at Prime Alchemy, because I know a little bit about it, right? And I think you're approaching it obviously in a very purposeful way, but I like the way you describe it, with a little bit of humor, with a little bit of fun, with a little bit of, exploration,
Yeah.
creativity and collaboration, which to me, when you think about like coaching and transformation, we lose a lot of those words. I think we need more of that as coaches, as consultants, right? It doesn't always have to be rigid according to a framework. Tell me how you're navigating that.
So years ago, I discovered the power of play, actual play. And I know people think that's nuts, but years ago it sort of happened, and it was accidental, to be honest with you, in the sense of I was struggling with my team, trying to help them retain knowledge and retain techniques, and they were struggling with it. And this was when I was in manufacturing, like helping them retain the processes. And so I reached out to a mentor and just said, I am really struggling with this. I don't know what to do. I've been, working with my partner to try to figure this out. And they guided me to a book. They just said, here, I don't know if you've ever heard of Harvard Gardner and his frameworks of the mind. It's a dense book, but I think this might be what you're looking for. And me in a book, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm that kind of nerd. So I pick up this book, and it's talking about multiple intelligences. And I'm like, oh, this is really fancy and lofty. But what clicked in my brain was one line. Children learn through play. Humans learn through play. That was it. And I went, wait a minute. And I began to realize that's what we're missing. That throughout, like in the beginning of our childhood, that's how we learn. We learn to walk, not by handing someone a manual or handing them a framework or a process, but actually playing with them. And that's how we walk. And that doesn't change. Our brains are wired for that. So I started to look at how could I incorporate game-based learning, actual play, experiences into the work that I did to help people not only retain the knowledge they had, but get excited again about the work that they were doing and collaborate more. Because through play, we collaborate. Because yes, we can play alone, but we have more fun when we play with others. That's really the reality of work. We're on teams. We should be playing with each other. And so I started to experiment with my team, my poor team. I started to experiment with them and use them as guinea pigs. And then I started to take that work and move it into client work. And I started to see the success. I mean, there were some failures, but overall there was success. And that's when I realized that's the modality. If we use humor, which is part of play, if we use the ability of people to be able to practice what they're learning, giving them an experience that's tied to their work, they'll not only retain what they've learned, but they're going to get excited about teaching it to others.
Yeah, experiential learning, right?
Yeah.
It's the most impactful way to kind of learn and retain information. I love that once again you brought a prior skill set or discipline around play into this new venture, right? Transferring those skills that you already had in you or you already believed in and adapted into what would kind of be, which I think is a pretty revelatory model around how we need to kind of work and coexist, especially in kind of siloed environments that we're working in now.
Yeah.
So now that you're doing this work, what is different about what feels different, right? How do you operate your day differently? How do you view yourself and your clients versus where you were in whether it's in an education or a corporate environment?
Well, what feels different feels authentic. Before I felt like, all the study that I had done, I got my certification in coaching and, I worked as a consultant for an agency for a little bit to get my feet even wetter into this. And there's all these frameworks, like, as you said, that didn't feel authentic to me. It felt like I was forcing a system onto myself and having to be serious all the time and kind of suppressing who I am naturally. And I realized the same thing I was asking my clients to do, which was to be authentic and to be themselves and lean into who they are, I wasn't doing myself. So once I not only leaned into the power of play, and playing with purpose is what we call it, and I started to be less apologetic for it. I think in the beginning, I would sort of apologize to clients like, we're going to try something or we're going to do something.
Sure.
And, I know not everyone's going to get involved and I'm so sorry. And now it's just like, no, here's what's happening. And we're all going to be involved in it and we're all going to work together. And so that was one, is that it improved my confidence because I leaned into what I knew to be true. And I leaned into who I am. I don't apologize for laughing. I don't apologize for enjoying a little bit of misery that people go through in the beginning of the process.
Mm-hmm.
I don't apologize for just leaning into, we're going to play. It will be purposeful. It will be tied to your work. And we're going to have a rich debrief about the experience we just had. And we're going to figure out those next steps. I don't apologize for that process anymore. I lean into it. I enjoy it. And I can feel the difference. And my clients can feel the difference.
I mean, check, right? It's like you leaned into something you love that inspired you, your
Mhm.
purpose. You became more confident, more effective.
Yeah.
I'm sure the results, improved along the
They
way.
did.
And what I'm looking at from just, a positioning standpoint, branding standpoint, especially in your and our field, how do you differentiate yourself, right? Like in that purpose through play is, to me, a great edge, right? And strategic positioning mechanism.
Yeah.
It's not the same framework that, not to name names, but like 10X or other cohort or framework-based teaching and coaching methods exist on,
Right.
or EOS, right? Great tools.
Yeah.
But most people are coaching the same things,
Yeah.
right? This gave you a differentiator in the market simply by tuning into what inspired you, what
Yeah.
you were passionate about, and you knew you could deliver. So instead of hiding behind it, I commend you for wearing it on your sleeve and testing it and laughing at yourself with the failures along the way. But it sounds like this is something that hopefully will continue to give you a little bit more, intention and direction around the type of people that you're serving and who are looking for someone like yourself.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that was a hard lesson. And I love that you said that about the sort of setting yourself apart in the branding, is that it also helped me recognize, and I think you and I have talked about this before, and you've been instrumental in this epiphany, I will say, is that it also helped me recognize that I'm not for everybody. And that's
Amen.
okay. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's absolutely 100% okay. And I think that I will, you don't ever get an opportunity to thank someone for giving you a valuable lesson. But I want to thank you for that, because that's what I really got from you, was that idea of it's really okay that you're not for everybody.
Well,
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. I mean, you've done the work, right? You're
Mhm.
just being you.
Yeah.
And I think it's attracting the type of clients, hope, and will continue to that you're seeking. But look, I'm guilty as charged as well. It's very easy to think that we have to appeal and apply to being all things to all people,
Yeah.
when in fact you're really speaking to no one in that regard.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy to feel that, to hear that you're just being authentically yourself, and it's attracting the right clients, and dispelling the wrong ones.
Yeah.
Because we've all had clients that we probably wish we never met. But the more you lean into your message and your purpose, I think it's going to automatically just filter, right? The folks that are right for you and the folks that aren't.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of start to round up a little bit. I've got a few kind of quick hit questions
Okay.
that I like to ask towards the end. What's one founder or leader or even brand that you admire for how they are leading with purpose and intention in today's marketplace?
Ooh, there's a couple. Okay, so one in my space, I will say, is Patrick Lencioni's Table Group. I think they've been really authentic with who they are, who they serve. They're kind of unapologetic about it, and how they show up. And I love that. Another one is a little bit of a surprise. I think it's going to be a surprise to people because I don't actually consume their brand, but I admire their brand.
That's okay.
All right. So it's Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
I don't actually eat Chick-fil-A.
You don't consume Chick-fil-A?
I don't. I'm not. Everyone else loves Chick-fil-A, and I'm like,
that's okay.
Not so much. But their corporate culture. So I have two really good friends who actually work in their corporate office, and just the conversations that we've had around how they treat their employees, they're the walking embodiment of how you want people to show up to work every day with purpose.
Wow.
And so I love that about them. I know that the actual stores are franchised, but their corporate culture, like actually going to Georgia to their corporate office, is such a great experience because they really do believe in their employees, and their employees are their customer. It is not the person consuming the. Sorry, guys, if you love Chick-fil-A,
I love it.
But the customer is the employee, and then the employee's customer is the outside customer. And that has been something that I have been preaching. I feel like I've been preaching for years to people. And Chick-fil-A has shown that you can do this and be profitable and be a known brand. And so I love that, even though I don't eat their food, but I love it.
That's fine. Yeah. They also make good chicken.
Yeah.
No, I think it's wonderful putting your own stakeholders, your own employees at the front of the line, right?
Yeah.
They have the potential to be your greatest ambassadors for your brand.
Exactly.
So many businesses focus on just projecting and preaching out to the audience when a lot of times what we kind of call it's like purpose paradox. Like you have this bigger vision and purpose that you want to share with the world, and yet it's not even present within your own organization. Right? You're kind of like this barefoot cobbler, like you don't even drink your own Kool-Aid.
Yes.
So when you can get your employees to echo that, it's going to trickle down and bottom up. Yeah. But I think that's brilliant. And look, it obviously manifests in their brand marketing campaigns. Where, it's basically a series of actual real customers, or so they say, in their positive interactions with their employees. Yeah. That doesn't happen if the type of culture that you just shared with us isn't in place firmly in Chick-fil-A, right? You're not going to have these people that are willing to go above and beyond, these employees for their customers, the end customers. So it's interesting to see how that reverberates and echoes to, real world examples with Chick-fil-A. That's great. I love both of those. Next question real quick. What's one misconception about leadership or entrepreneurship that you had to unlearn when you started your business?
You have to know and do everything as an entrepreneur.
Wait, you don't have to wear all the hats?
No, you don't have to wear all the hats. Like that's a big one, to be honest with you, is that you walk into this, and especially in the beginning, because you're by yourself, right? You're a one man, one person, one woman, not to be gender biased, one person experience. And you just think, I have to do everything. I have to know everything. And the reality is that especially when you start off as a solo entrepreneur, that is when you need to lean into your network. That's when you need to find people who are the experts in what they do and lean into that. And if you don't have the resources, the barter system still works. I did a lot of bartering in the beginning for services and support, and it always comes back a millionfold. So you don't have to know everything, and you don't have to do everything as an entrepreneur.
Amen. And that's kind of where that sort of having that coach or mentor along the way is super, super critical, because we have our blind spots, right? And sometimes we don't even notice it until it's a little bit too late. The next question, I think you already answered. If you could repeat it for us, kind of that one book recommendation, but I'm curious if you could kind of share that book again that was referred to you that inspired you around play.
Yeah, so it's Howard Gardner's frameworks of the mind.
Okay.
But then he has a book called Multiple Intelligence as well. Right now, the book that I'm really excited about is called Click, and it's by Jack Knapp, I think. And it's really about systems. And
Nice.
so that's the book that I'm sort of into now. And then one other book recommendation is actually a book I wrote. It's a children's book, and it's called How to Know You Live in a Dictatorship. And then the second of the series, the second of the series is coming out in September 17th, which is Three Branches of Government, Who's in Charge. And they're children's books.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Very, very timely. Very timely, very on the nose.
On the nose, timely.
Can I get a copy of both of those?
Absolutely.
I mean, what age my kids are 4 and 7. Is this?
Well, okay. So here's the thing.
Should we wait a couple of years? I mean, I want to read it, but
no, you don't have to wait a couple of years. So the pictures, the illustrator, the person who did the illustrator, she did beautiful illustrations. Louise Albert is the illustrator, and the kids will love the illustrations. They're beautiful. So it doesn't matter how old they are, they'll get into the illustration. And the text of it is a bit cheeky. It's, it's a 9 3/4 little boy asking grandpa how, he's hearing things go on, and he wants to know how can you tell when someone's a dictator? So that's really what the conversation is about. And it's for all ages.
Powerful. We'll have to get the link from you for the next one coming out. We'll put it out in the show notes when we put the episode out. All right. Final question. In one sentence or less, what do you believe is your purpose?
I believe my purpose is to help people go home whole.
Wow. I really like that one.
That's
go home whole.
Go home whole. Yeah.
That's nice. That's tight. That's concise. That's very telling. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, thank you.
All right. I challenge everyone listening to work on their one-liner, their one-liner purpose statement. That's hard to distill it to that level. Awesome. Well, look, I want to thank you again for being here, for being open and vulnerable and sharing and inspiring. But hopefully this is first of many, and wishing you continued luck in transforming the space, play by play at a time.
Thank you very much. And I'm so excited about this podcast. I think it's needed in the world. So everyone needs to listen.
Amen. Spread the word. Thanks for coming on, Marie.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you tuning in today. I hope this brought you a bit of confidence, clarity, and conviction on your business journey. If something here resonated, do me a favor, leave a quick review or share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. It goes a long way in helping more people find the show and start their own journey. And as always, you'll find all the resources and ways to connect with me in the show notes. Now, go take that next step in building the business you've been dreaming of. Wishing you continued purpose, prosperity, and peace of mind.